been an aircraft or many smaller light planes flying in formation? The media attention given the sightings prompted 6 pilots at a local airport to try to prove that it could be just that. Amused by the idea of UFOs, the pilots planned and flew at least 18 daring nighttime missions, flying in formation, sometimes without lights. This hoax fooled at least some of the eyewitnesses, but not Bob and Lori. They claimed that in addition to photographing the UFO, they also videotaped the light airplanes as they enacted their hoax.
There are 6, and the lead one has his 3 lights on. Everybody else only has 2. Did you hear the engines?
Some UFO investigators agree that many of the reported sightings were probably of the hoax. But some eyewitnesses, they say, were clearly able to differentiate between the hoax and the unidentified object.
As it was coming over, there was a star in the sky, and as the lead light went under that star, right behind it, you could still see the star, which meant it was not a solid object. And as it was going overhead, you did hear engines. All right, now, what kind of aircraft engines, I don't know, but you did hear aircraft engine noise.
Engine noise, different lights, and different flying movements, UFO proponents say, clearly make the airplanes IFOs, identified flying objects. But this object, or objects, remains unidentified for many. Some eyewitnesses refuse to accept the possibility that these are also the lights of the airplanes.
I know what it wasn't. It wasn't an ultralight. It wasn't a blimp. It wasn't gas. No one's tried to tell me what it was, but I know what it wasn't.
Investigators have subjected the videotape images of the hoax and the unidentified lights to various computer analyses. By digitalization of the images, they hope to be able to determine if the area between the lights of the UFO was solid, indicating one craft. The airplanes, they hope, would show night sky in the center of the lights. Physicist Al Hibbs.
Pictures like this, night sky, a few lights, taken with a television camera that was perhaps being moved, not deliberately, but accidentally while it was taking the pictures. There's really nothing you can say about these things. In one case, a very good explanation is offered, and I see no reason to disbelieve it. In the other case, there's no explanation. I certainly can't offer one. I would love it if some UFOs were extraterrestrial objects being piloted by extraterrestrial beings. I think that'd be the most marvelous discovery of the history of man. I'd love to have that be true. So I'm not going to say that foreign objects, artifacts made by intelligent creatures in the solar system, I'm not going to say that's preposterous. I'm going to say it is so unusual, so immensely important, that I'm not going to assign anything like any sightings like this to that phenomenon without a lot more data.
Insufficient data, the object remains unidentified. For government officials, therefore, it is of no consequence. But for the New York eyewitnesses, the question of what it is remains. They find the government's apparent lack of interest puzzling.
The government didn't come to me as a rational individual. As an accountant, I like concrete things. I like evidence. For them to say that I didn't see anything without really talking to me and investigating it means that they were trying to hide something. And that was my feeling from the very beginning.
They know something, okay? They know something. Either they know that there's something up there, and they want to investigate it themselves and don't want other people trying to handle it, or they're doing something. But if they're doing something, then let people know about it.
This New York State event occurred over a densely populated area and over a nuclear plant, prompting one eyewitness, New York attorney Peter Gersten, to suspect a government cover-up. With others, like Larry Fawcett, a police officer in Coventry, Connecticut, he helped establish Citizens Against UFO Secrecy. Fawcett, who says the way he views the world has been drastically affected by his sightings of a UFO in 1965, petitioned the government for the release of UFO-related documents. These documents, released under the Freedom of Information Act, were previously classified top secret.
An example of some of the government documents we have obtained the overflights over the military bases in 1975, over Wurtsmith Air Force Base in Michigan, over Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, Loring Air Force Base in Maine, Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota, over a period of 6 weeks. Unusual, unknown, unidentified objects were traveling at exceedingly quick and fast speeds. What's interesting is that even to this date, the government has not acknowledged that it was able to identify any of those objects.
The documents do state that there were confirmed sightings at all 4 bases in October and November 1975. The first sighting was at Loring Air Force Base in Maine. Loring, like the other bases, was a Strategic Air Command installation. The documents do not state, however, that these objects were alien spacecraft. They do state that the military reaction was swift and concerned. At Loring, there were 2 separate events. Something unidentified appeared in the night sky above the weapons storage area. Larry Fawcett, having learned of the event in the released documents, investigated.
Military people and guards in and around the weapons storage areas began to report lights hovering or landing within the weapons storage areas. Military people would respond to the area only to see the lights go out and the object disappear and then reappear over the runway. It's described as football-shaped, the length of maybe 2 or 3 vehicles, cars, if you will. The witness telling us that there are shimmerings of heat as you would see off a desert scene in a movie. When we questioned the individual, could it have been an aircraft? Could it have been a helicopter? The military person, and I'll give you his name, Steve Eichner, telling us, no, I know what helicopters look like. I've been around aircraft. I work on aircraft. This is something I've never seen before.
The official records, which I quote in my book, indicate that on the first night, it certainly was a helicopter. It was described as a helicopter. Now, if the officers on the base, experienced pilots, if they don't know a helicopter, and we have to depend on some GI who's not a pilot, who comes forward not at the time, but years later, he claims to have been there and claims it was not a helicopter. Again, let's go on the official records.
It is the official record.